Rockstars, Eric Andreas, your Guitar Sage here. Welcome. It's noon on Wednesday, March the 30th, 2022. This is day 3 of the 5-day Guitar Challenge Boot Camp. Well, we have a whole little syllabus for you, right? And I have 2 courses for you that we're going through. We're going through one of them right now. The other one we went through this weekend. But I'm still making those available to everybody while we still have the specials going on. So indulge in all the goodies that I'm giving you guys today. Nearly 40-something videos, okay? No, more than that. Daggone it. The stuff we're talking about today, Mike, it's almost 50 videos now. With the 365. I totally forgot. And so we're going to be going over that stuff today. First off, friends, welcome. If you have not already, the very first link in the description of this video will give you access. Well, here's what it'll do. The very first link in the description of this video, if you click on it, do so. Click on it with me while we talk. And it's going to bring you to a page that has the specials of the promo that we did this weekend, okay, where we gave the Les Paul guitar away and all that good stuff. And this week, as promised, for those that got into the program or just for those that need the help, we're doing this 5-day broadcast. So if you click on that link and you scroll, and on that page, when you get to it, scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a place for you to put your email, first name, then we can send you these courses. Bam, okay? That's how it's going to work. And so yesterday, the last 2 days, we talked about Unstoppable Guitar System Standard, which is one of the courses that you get for free. You also get the first week of the 365 Guitar Plan for free. And we're going to be going over those things today. So let me tell you about what we're going to be looking at, okay? Introduction to the 365 Guitar Plan, how to navigate it and all that good stuff. You don't have to be in 365 Pro in order to take advantage of this because I'm giving you like the first week for free. Those are the exercises we're going to be going over today. You'll understand my philosophy for why I created 365, okay? And how it's going to help you. It's not just like, oh, it's so interesting, your philosophy on 365. No, what I mean is like why it is that we're doing it, why you should be doing some sort of practice like that, okay? We're talking about how to read tablature. We're going to do the 7 exercises, or the 7 focus exercises to keep your guitar playing in tip-top shape. And this is the focuses as represented by the 7 days of the week inside the 365 program, 7 days a week, 7 different focuses. We do it 52 times. You start at a baby beginner place, and after 52 weeks, you are raging. And so what I mean by the baby beginner, it's just the easiest of the lessons in the beginning, although some of them are challenging, okay? And here's the deal. It doesn't matter if you're a baby beginner or it doesn't matter if you've been playing for 50 years, because the speed at which you play these exercises is going to be the challenge, right? So we always want to find what our edge is of what we can do at anything and press against that edge, okay? For beginners, it's anything, right? As intermediate and advanced players, we have to make things faster or more complicated in order to push against that edge. But you can do it, okay? Okay, well, introduction to finger picking, finger style. We're going to talk about that today. And then also how practice makes permanent. So, slow it down, break it down. You guys have heard me say that before. There's reasons, and I'll show you why psychologically, why you would want to do that and how that is going to benefit your playing, all right? Cool, rock and roll, friends. You ready to do this? So, for the next, until 2 o'clock Central here, I'm going to be live with you. So, for the first hour or so, we're going to be going over stuff, but really it's not hardcore an hour. It's whatever it takes to get the job done to where I can get you to the place that's going to benefit you. And then for an hour-ish, I'm also going to take your questions in real time, preferably about the stuff that we covered today or covered this week or covered this weekend. But realistically, we can talk about anything as far as guitar. And honestly, if you want to get metaphysical and weird and talk about other things, we can do it. Because you know me, I love doing all that. It's fun. And it applies to everything we're doing, okay? So here we go. So let's delve into this. We're going to start with 365 Standard. So Mike, can you pipe that in right there, my screen, so everybody can see what we're doing here? So, okay, so what I'm giving you guys today is basically well, you know it. It's UGS Standard 365 the first week here. But if you want to know where this is at, and I've got everything in here, so it's going to look like, what the heck, right? But like this is your My Library section right here. So when you're an Unstoppable Guitar System Pro membership, you get like all this and all these other courses too. It's not just the one, you're getting like a lot of courses, okay? So it's not just the one course, but obviously this is where we've been at the last 2 days. So we want to come to 365. I'm going to go to the Pro version just because the same 7 exercises that we're going to be looking at are in Pro, Classic, and Standard. But I want you to be able to peek around in here as well. Okay, so here I am in 365. I got to that from my library there. I'm clicking on this ellipsis there just so I have all the days of the week here. So essentially, let me go over this really quickly to give you a kind of an idea of what's going on here. Essentially, I said, okay, there's 7, in my mind, there was 7 different areas that I wanted to focus on. There's 7 days of the week. It worked out perfectly. I love numerology and systems and paradigms and sacred geometry and all that stuff. It's just fascinating to me how that stuff works out. So this worked out perfectly. 7 days of the week, bring it to 52 weeks of the year, boom, 365. Or it's more like, it's a little bit more than that, a few more days in there through extra. But on Mondays, we do alternate picking. On Tuesdays, we focus on hammer-ons and pull-offs. I'll tell you why this is all important to do. Wednesday, we talk about economy picking, arpeggios, that sort of thing, but it's all economy picking. Thursday is what I call stretch and reach. These aren't like hard, fast names. It's just like kind of my idea in my own mind as I was creating these things. Then we have modes, scales, sequences, which is basically everything to do with scales and how we might apply them. So it gets a little bit, I don't want to say theory-wise, because we're not learning theory in this per se. We're learning patterns, but it's associated very much so to the diatonic way of thinking, which is basically all music that we all listen to, right? And then this is all polyphonic playing, or double stops, triads, that sort of thing. So you get the idea of playing more than one note at a time and how to do that fingering wise. And then Sunday is all about finger style, finger picking, okay? So why it is that we want to focus on one particular thing and then wait another day to come to something else is the more mindful that we can be, the more hyper-focused. You're going to hear me say a lot of words like that, hyper-focused, where focus goes, energy grows, right? So whatever we're focusing on, whatever we're being mindful of, this practice of in meditation or playing guitar, anything, mindfulness, focus, is mega powerful. Think about what a laser is. A laser is just light. Okay, but it's an immense amount of light in a very tight space, and because of that, it can burn through things from a long distance. So in that same way, we can set up our brains for success by being hyper-focused on a particular thing. Let us really get it integrated into our cells, into our brain, into our fingers, and then we're never going to forget it, okay? And that's what we're doing by these 7 different days. If we're just kind of mindlessly noodling on the guitar, we're definitely going to get better. You can't pick up the guitar and be noodling and not get better. It's physically impossible. But just like someone who does a couple push-ups a day and watches TV the rest of the day is going to have a different physique than the guy who wakes up at 5 a.m. and puts in 3 hours of hardcore working out, right? There's going to be a difference, let's be honest, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here is we're hyper-focusing on a particular thing. We're not spending 3 hours on a particular something, but say Mondays is biceps day or something like that. That's what we're doing is we're focusing on a particular thing so that we can see that growth, so we can quantify that growth, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's a brief overview there of 365. Let's talk about, this is a brief on how to read tablature. I know a lot of you know how to do this, a lot of you don't, so hang in there. We're going to go over this real quick. So at the beginning of each week here, because some people are buying it on a Monday, some are buying it on a Friday, some are buying it on a Sunday, I want to make sure that you're set up for success. So I have this beginning little set of videos in each one, which is an introduction to that specific week and why it is that we're doing that sort of thing, then an introduction to the actual exercises, then how to read tablature, and then we're off to our first exercise. So when you get into 365, which you have available to you for free by clicking the link in the description of that video, and then once on that page, going to the bottom, you'll see a place there for you to enter your email and first name, and I'm going to set you up with all these courses, okay? But that's how I start off each day of the week. You only have to do that one time. So those first, you only have to watch how to read tablature one time. The 2 videos at the top of the day, Monday, you only have to watch those one time, right? And then you're off, then you're at week 1. So the first day you'd come through here, you just do all 4 of these. Tomorrow you wouldn't have to watch this one again, but on Tuesday you'll watch those 2. That's it, okay? So, let me show you. Essentially, when we are, and let me show you this real quick. So when we're on a particular exercise, you're going to have both the PDF file and GPX, which is Guitar Pro file. And you can, if you have Guitar Pro, you can have that in there. You can change the key. You can manipulate it. You can slow it down, speed it up, whatever. Have a metronome going. These are all great little extras that you can use with a program that are going to help out. You also have the PDF, and you also have a video of the actual lick audibly, so you can hear what it sounds like. Okay, and okay, so let's talk about tablature here really quickly. So there's a video here for you guys, but we're going to look at the actual PDF here very quickly. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to break this down very quickly for you guys, because right now I'm not going to have you reading all that stuff, obviously, right? So essentially, tablature is this simple. 99% of it is this. You've got 6 strings represented by 6 lines. Think about the lowest string, the one on the bottom, as being the one that's lowest in pitch. So it's the low E string. Whereas the one that's highest up here is the high E string, because it's high in pitch. The thin string, okay? So just remember that. Think about like this is a building, and so higher in pitch, it's a higher string. A lot of people get frustrated because they say, well, this is upside down. Well, it's not if we're talking about pitch. And also if we're talking about musical notation, if we were doing the, every good boy does fine, and the actual notes, musical notation, then it works in the same way. The lower staff lines represent lower notes. Okay, that's where you find the lower notes. So when you have tablature and musical notations sitting on top of each other and you can see them, they move in the same direction. So we would want to do that, okay? That's why tablature is the way it is. Okay, the second most important thing, they're both important, they're both equally important, because you have one without the other, is you need to know what fret to play, okay? And that's going to be like literally 95%. If you know those 2 things, you know 95% on how to read tab. And it goes like this. This represents the actual fret, right? So if we pluck the open E string, or in this case here, I'm going to pluck these 2 middle, the D and the G. I'm going to pluck them open, right? And then if I wanted to play these other notes, then I would just need to put fingers on 3 and 3, and 3 and 2 right here. So the 3rd fret, these aren't fingers, obviously, right? I'm not putting one finger stretched across all these strings. So this is the fret. So I'm putting my 2nd finger, in this case, on that fret, and I'm putting my 1st finger on this 2nd fret, and then I'm putting my 3rd finger on here, my 4th finger on here. Again, these are frets, not strings. So now I get my G chord, and when all these notes are stacked up on each other, that means that they occur all at the same time. So that's just a chord being played. If it was in a more linear fashion, as we're going to see down here, it's more like a sentence, like you're talking in a sentence, as opposed to I don't know. what I could say that would compare my voice to a chord. A bunch of people saying things at once or something, you know? So that's tablature in a nutshell there. There was something else I was going to tell you about this. Oh, so people in the beginning, they say, well, how do I know what fingers to use? You know what fingers to use because I teach that to you in a free course that I give you called UGS. Okay, and it's there for you today. If you're wondering why I'm singing it, is because I'm trying to introduce this to new people, but dear God, please help the people that have been with me so long that have heard me say that a million times. I'm sorry. Okay, so tablature symbols. So you're going to see some stuff in tablature that's going to be things like hammer-ons, pull-offs, bending strings, sliding up, all these things right here, right? And we're not going to go through all these in detail, because there's just not the time for it right now. And I have videos for you on this stuff. But essentially, you'll see little things like this in tablature that will denote the way that you're going to approach that note. Okay, so the line tells you what string, the number tells you what fret. Doesn't tell you what the fingering is, but when you follow my protocol as I teach you inside UGS Standard, you're going to get this, and it's not something you have to think about once you get it. Once you understand the concept, you done, okay? And then you have these other little bits here that will give you the nuance of the string. So for instance, if I see a note going from 3 to 4, then I'm going to go, and I'm going to pick both of them. But if it says 3, H, 4, I'm going to hammer 4. So I'm going to pick 3 and hammer 4. And it has a slightly different sound to it. Same thing if I had a pull off or if I was bending a string, right? That sort of thing. So it's going to denote, and it's going to denote where to bend or where to pull off or where to hammer on, that sort of thing. Okay, and I go into all the details here. So here's an example of the A minor pentatonic scale as I'm using hammer-ons, okay? So these are all starting on the 5th fret, so I'm going to be in the 5th position, meaning my first finger's behind the 5th fret, and then all the other fingers will fall in line respectively, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 will be taken care of by strings 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the beginning here, I have this 5 and 8. I'm going to pick 1, I'm going to pick the 5, and I'm going to hammer the 8. And then 5, 7, 5, 7. And that's what we see right there, okay? It doesn't tell us the tempo, doesn't tell us anything like that. People go, well, man, why? It just tells us what to play. It doesn't tell us when to play. It doesn't give us the rhythm and everything else. See musical notation, okay? But yeah, but musical notation is hard. Exactly, because you're including all the information. So you either get a condensed version of a book that doesn't have all the details in it. I love it when people get mad at that. They're like, that condensed version doesn't have the same amount of info. Yeah, no, duh. It's a condensed version, bro. So like, it's literally something to give you a basic idea of what that book is. In this case here, it's not going to give you the same information as musical notation. It's giving you the string name, the fret, and some nuances about it, and that's about it, okay? It doesn't tell you what the rhythm is. Some people have gotten keen to putting the actual rhythmic notation on the note itself, so that's pretty cool, but now you need to know how to read those rhythms, right? Okay, so I go over all this for you. This document is available to you for free inside the, and then we're gonna do this by the end of this program. You're gonna learn how to play this piece, and I'm kidding. That's a lute piece right there, but we could do it. So it's got a lot of detail in there for you, and that, friends, is inside of UGS Standard. It's also inside of 365. So I got that from How to Read the Tablature, and it's right here. So that's for you, clicking on that link inside the description of today's video on YouTube. Okay, cool. I'm seeing a donation there. Thank you so much, whoever did that. I can't see yet. Okay. All right, so that's who is it, Mike? Live Alive. Again, thank you, Live Alive. That's so kind of you. I so appreciate that. Okay, so that's tablature in a nutshell, right? We're done with that there, Mike. Thank you so much. Okay, so now that we've done that, how to read tablature, let's look. So we're going back to this again. So let me show you. We're going to Monday. We're going to talk about Monday. We're going to talk about the first exercise here. Here we go. And it's the second finger exercise, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3. I should have downloaded these earlier. I didn't. I apologize. So here we go. Let's do this. Boom. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pull this guy up. Okay, so this is our exercise 1, and I have this in PDF form, not in the JPEG or the GPX form, because there's no need, right? So we have it in standard musical notation if you would like to do that. It's kind of fun to challenge yourself. By the way, if you're in 365 and you're going through it for the second or third time, you want to challenge yourself, you want to start reading music, just start reading this, right? It's like reading a Harry Potter novel at age 5, but you'll learn to read. You'll learn to read music if you do that. All right? Get the book though that I have first. It's on Amazon. How to read music, and I'll walk you through it. Okay? So tablature. So here we go. We got 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 3 2 3 2 3 2. Just write down the list, right? Going up and down these strings. We're starting, since this is the highest string in our little building here, it means it's the highest pitch one, right? It's that E, not the lowest one. So, and the way that I teach is, I say that if you're in the first position, meaning your first finger is behind the first fret, then the second finger is behind the second fret, third behind the third, fourth behind the fourth. Make sense? It just lines up perfectly like that. If we moved up into the fifth position, then all the fingers would line up accordingly, and that's how we would play whatever it is that we're working on. So in this case here, I start you off at the nut, and we're playing things 2 1 2 1 2 1. So those are the frets, remember, not the fingers. But coincidentally, because we're in the first position, it does line up. So 2 1 2 1 2 1 is going to be played by fingers 2 1 2 1 2 1, just like that. Okay. So using the fretting bits that we did the other day, I want you to go through this. We're not going to spend a ton of time on these. I'm just kind of want to introduce you to the concepts here. Okay. So if we were playing this, the speed doesn't matter. The speed at which you can do it and it's challenging you is the best speed, okay? It's the correct speed. It's the best one for you. And your best is going to be different than somebody else's best. Don't compare yourself to others. It never helps. So just don't do it, right? So this first part here, the way we would do this, where that highlight is, and it's just really these two guys right there. It's 2 1. As played by fingers 2 1. Okay? And I'm going to go right down the list. Now I'm working my way back up, still in the second measure there. End of the third measure, going into the fourth. I'm sorry, end of the second, going into the third. And now here I'm switching to 3 2. And so on and so forth. So if we were playing this smoothly, it might sound like this. 4 3. Okay, so obviously if I'm a faster player, I'm going to play that faster. But really, what we're going for is accuracy. A lot of people think that speed is something that you can get by playing fast, and it's really not. It's really that you want to play accurately, and accuracy leads to speed because you know it so well, okay? So just remember that with all of these exercises, it really truly has to do with being accuracy, and that's your goal, okay? So for those exercises where for alternate picking days, what we're doing is we're picking down for the first note and picking up for the second note. And it's going to be that every single time. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That sort of thing. Okay? Every single time, no matter what. That's the protocol. You're trying to train, I say you're not trying to, you are training your hands to do what you want when you want them to do it. You're commanding them. And you do that enough time, you build the neural paths, they start doing what you want them to do. Okay? So coming over here to Tuesday, what we're going to do is we're going to take the same approach here. You know, you start on Tuesday, you watch these 3 videos, and then you're in. Okay. So basically, this is the same exact exercise, except what we're doing is we are playing hammer-ons and pull-offs. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So now we have, this is denoted, and by the way, I mentioned this in the tablature video. This denotes a pull-off. Now someone might say, well, how do I know that's a pull-off and not a hammer-on? Well, because you can only pull off from a higher note to a lower note. You can't hammer from a higher note to a lower note. And as far as hammer-ons, you can only hammer from a lower note to a higher note. You can't hammer from a higher note to a lower note. So it's kind of redundant to write hammer there, but some people do it, and that's fine, or pull off, that's fine. But a tie, as this is called, will do it. You've seen this in musical notation. There it is, right? And that denotes usually a note that's sustained over that note. So if we were playing this on piano, we'd hit this note. This note wouldn't actually be played, but it would be held out for the length of those notes, okay? But when we're talking about guitar, especially, well, in this case, those are two different notes, so we couldn't do that on the piano. If we're talking about same note, that you would use that tie for that example. But usually in guitar, see the tablature for if it's a note to be held out or if it's actually a pull-off or a hammer-on. In this case, for the most part, it's going to be slurs or hammer-ons and pull-offs, okay? They're not just things that insult people anymore, my friends, slurs. They are things that we can use on the guitar, right? So here we go. So if we did this 2-1, it would look like this. We'd pull off, we'd go. So I pick the first note, I pull off the second note. And then once we get this, you want to have a little pace to it. Okay? And all the while you're working on just your pull-offs today. If you want to do pull-ups on this day, you can do that too. It's a great day to do pull-ups. I did mine this morning. Do these pull-offs, right? And that will develop your pull-off routine. I also have tons of hammer-ons. Again, this is week 1 of 52 weeks, right? So just understand that one day you might be doing pull-offs. The next day you may be doing hammer-ons. And other days you're going to be doing both, okay? Then if we go to Wednesdays, right, we have economy picking. And so economy picking, we can turn that screen off for a second here, Mike. Economy picking is this. It's when you're not doing strict hammer-on, or it's not strict down-up, okay? So when we're doing strict down-up alternate picking, it means no matter what, it's down, up, down, up, down, up. So if we have something like the major scale, it's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? Every single time, no matter what. But what economy picking says is, well, it depends if it makes sense economically or movement-wise, economic movement-wise. Does it make sense to keep going down or to keep going up as opposed to skipping the string and then keeping up with that same alternate picking? Now, it raises the question, which one's better? Which one's best? Because, dear Lord, that question's never asked on the internet, right? Especially about guitars. There is no better, there's no best, there's what's better for a particular situation, and that's about it. And it might be better for one person and not for another. So there's lots of players that will use alternate picking strictly, and there's other players who use economy picking, and they seem to get better at that. As a youth, I was doing everything economy picking because I had never heard of alternate picking. And then my buddy said, you got to hear this guy, Yngwie Malmsteen. This was, I don't know, early 80s. And I'm like, dear Lord, that is insanity, how fast this guy was playing. And he says, yeah, he doesn't use any, he uses strict alternate picking. And I'm like, what is that? And so he taught me what it was, what I taught you what it is. And I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. And so for the longest time, I thought that the only thing this guy used was alternate picking. And I'm like, how is he playing these passages so fast just using alternate picking? Because alternate picking is great. It's a discipline, and it helps train your hand. And in some cases, it's exactly what you need to do. But in other cases, alternate picking, in many cases, alternate picking is something that's going to get you to where it is that you want to go to better than alternate picking, okay? But it's different situations, so don't assume. You're going to make a fool out of yourself if you assume, unless you understand kind of how this works, okay? And I talk about that inside of this Wednesday day. Anyhow, it turns out my buddy was completely wrong. The reason for Yngwie Malmsteen's speed, Malmsteen, if you don't know who he is, look him up. Forget about the first name. I'm not going to try to spell it for you, but Malmsteen, Malmsteen. Just look at anything he does. He's a phenomenal guitar player. But anyhow, so much of his speed honestly comes from a mastery of economy picking, where he, depending on what's happening with the pick, it will tell if it'll determine whether you're going to continue to pick down or up. Here's an example. And we're going to be using, we'll be using this first exercise right here as an example. So the G major.
Show it.
What's that?
Do you want to show it?
What's that? The exercise?
The screen.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so this would be an example, okay? And this is the easiest example. But for instance, if I were picking, say, the major scale, and I was picking 3 notes per string, I might pick it like, I could pick alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You know, I could do that. Or, I'm going to turn that reverb down. Or turn it off, dear Lord. That's all my bowl tones with all that reverb. If I were to pick this, right, straight, 3 notes per string, I would pick down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I mean, I'm just picking alternate, right? But if I was doing alternate picking, I would pick down, up, down. Now my next note is below me because I'm on the 6th string right now. I just picked the 6th string, so the 5th string's below me, so I'm going to keep picking down. So I have down, up, down, and then the next string is below me because I was on the 5th string, now I'm on the 4th string, and I'm picking down again, so I might as well pick down and then up. So that pattern is down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Okay? And for some of you, your head just exploded because you're like, dear Lord, how am I going to memorize that? It's super easy. Let me show you this exercise, which is the very first one that's going to introduce you to this idea. And I specifically used that scale as we're going into it because it puts you in this position of having to consider this type of picking, okay? So here we go. So looking at the screen here, looking at our tablature, we have 3, 5, 7, 3. So 3, 5, 7 on that low E string and then a 3 on the 5th string. So I'm going to, now these things right up here tell you which direction to pick. So this is pick down, this is pick up, pick down, down. So this is an exercise that you would do in repetition, get it to feel good, get it to feel natural. It won't at first, especially if you're not used to economy picking like I was not. I did everything economy picking when I was a kid. Then I said, oh my gosh, Yngwie Malmsteen plays alternate picking, which he didn't. He does sometimes, but that's not what makes him so fast. It's the economy picking. I didn't know there was a difference between the two. My buddy tells me, no, you got to learn alternate picking. So for like 10 years, that's all I'm practicing is alternate picking, not realizing that I was getting really good at economy picking and then totally changing the way I did things. It's fine. I can do both, and I do both at different occasions, but nonetheless, using an exercise like this, I would have played it like this in the beginning and then later on went to alternate picking. So here, the first 3, I'm going to pick down, up. Now this one's going to be down and so is the next one because the string's below us. So I'm going to go down and that 3, I'm going to be playing down. So if you're used to strict alternate picking, that's going to feel awkward for you at first. If you're used to economy picking, it won't feel so bad. So I would practice this like down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, down. And that will be a little bit awkward, especially at the end there, because you're going down to down and you're having to kind of skip a string. That's okay. You'll be developing ninja-like picking skills doing this, I can promise you, okay? All right, good. That's economy picking, and we really get into some really cool stuff there. And we also get into sweep arpeggios and all that fun stuff, all that stuff that Yngwie Malmsteen does. He's still with us. arpeggio primer. There's all sorts of really cool stuff here. Angular picking. This is stuff like, oh my God, you want to challenge this, get into this angular picking. It's pretty amazing. Okay. Okay. I need to keep moving. We're a good pace here though. Okay. Let's talk about Thursday. So this is stretch and reach, and this is just basically getting you to. It's not really stretching your hand per se, right? We're not stretching your hand. What we're doing is we are setting you up for success so that you can play further stretches, if you will, okay? So by doing this, by kind of not forcing, but putting licks in front of you or under your fingers that require you to drop your thumb. Okay. Most guitar players in the beginning, they don't like to drop that thumb because they're having to use their hand in a different way, right? So in this case here, I'm kind of forcing your hand, if you will. So I'm going to put my first finger on the 12th fret of the second string. I'm going to put my second finger on the 13th fret of the first string. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to pick it like this. We're going to let both the notes sustain. Then you're going to take your first finger and drop it one fret, but you're going to leave that 13 where it's at. You're going to try not to let it mute out. So like this. See, that 13 stayed lit. Still ringing. And then, so try that. That takes a little getting used to, just even that. And then bring that second finger down. So the first 4 notes will sound like this. Or I should say the first 6 notes. So the first finger moves now, and the second finger moves. Now, why this is good is because it's going to, at first it's not much of a challenge, but then as you start getting down, as you start getting further down the neck, down in pitch, right, we're headed towards the nut, the fret space is getting wider, so it starts kind of, it's like doing negatives when you're working out. It's like stacking or pyramiding. It's like adding more weight to the stack, and then what that does is that requires you to work harder, but then you can also push up against your edge, like we're talking about all the time. Whether you're doing meditation or yoga or running or playing guitar, it's like you find out what you can do. You can find out what you can't do in that very moment, and then you try to position yourself to push against that thing that you can't do. And that's how you get there. Some people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's literally everything that you've done in life to get where you're at today. Okay, so you did first grade, it pushed you into second grade pushed you into third grade, but it was a gradual process. So anything, if you're doing a workout, if you're at your job and you're getting promoted and all these other things, whatever it is, anything that you're progressing at, it's because you're pushing up against your edge. That's the concept. You just find out where you're at, where you want to go, and you start pushing up against where you want to go. It's a great great psychological concept to use throughout your life. I use it non-stop. I mean, it literally is in my mind a dozen times a day, easily, in everything that I'm doing. So I'm constantly thinking that, and it's a winner. Okay, now Friday is going to be more about, shapes that these... Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, really what they're working on is they're working on creating a technique for you, okay? To where you're dropping that thumb, to where your hammer-ons are better, your pull-offs are better. Man, I forgot to mention, friends, this course right now, I totally forgot, is $49 today. Normally it's $79. So that's going through Sunday. I forgot to mention that. If you're interested in this, it's $49 today through Sunday, or $79 usually. Okay. If you get into 365, which we have some major deals on if you follow the link, right? If you follow the link that's in the description of the video, it'll actually take you to all of our deals. I won't go over them right now. I might talk about them at the end if we have time or something like that, but I want to help you out as much as possible today. So a lot of these are technique type things to get you to improve your technique and hyper focus on a specific area. And Friday, what it does is it really is more about, hey, here's some shapes that are actually going to be things that you're going to be using in the real world. If I hit this ellipsis, I get Saturday and Sunday here. All right, so, and one of those things is, look, we got the major pentatonic. We got all sorts of different forms that we're going to be using and different patterns and all sorts, right? So check this out. We're going to take a gander here at this real quick. So if I pull this up here, I actually now have the A minor and the C major pentatonic form 1. They look the same. They typically start on different notes. Traditionally, if you're practicing them, the C major will start on the 8 here, and it will end on the 8. And if we were playing a traditional A minor pentatonic, we'd start on the 5th fret here and end on the 5th fret, which are both A's. If we were playing it with a C major pentatonic, we'd play it from the C, which is this 8, and we'd play it to 8. So usually when we're playing octaves, you know, classically or anything else, we usually play them from octave to octave, and it just kind of gives you a more cohesive sound. Makes sense? If we were playing in C, makes sense? Okay, so in this case, that's what we did here, except I kind of did a little hybrid of them, so you'd have both of them. So I'm playing 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5. Now, I went through that fairly quickly. Again, it doesn't matter how fast Yngwie Malmsteen plays it, I play it, or anybody else. What matters is you and where you're at. If you're comparing yourself to other people, that's a game you're not going to win, because there's always going to be somebody better than you. And it's not a good game to be worried about the next guy. That's like racing. You're running and you're looking at the guy behind you or the guy before you. You're not there. You're where you're at. Focus on that. Focus on bettering yourself as a player, okay? So, by the way, this scale right here, if you learn one scale ever in your life, learn this one in this key. It's literally the most used form known to man. The A minor or C major pentatonic scales. They're used the most, more than anything else, right? Stairway to Heaven comes from this scale right here. Like 99% of those notes are right in that scale right there, okay? So, you know, what this does is it gives you real world stuff that you're gonna use, okay? We got 2 more. We're gonna do Saturday, we're gonna do Sunday, and then we're gonna get, then I got a couple more things to show you, and then we're gonna get to some questions, okay? So, going to Saturday. So, Saturday is more about what I call like polyphony, or, you know, poly meaning many, phonic meaning notes. So octaves, double stops, triads, 3 notes at a time, 2 notes at a time, and octaves. So, you know, these are really helpful, obviously, because they put you in a place of understanding the correlation between notes. So it's kind of hand in hand with Friday, and then it's kind of showing you some real things, okay? So this is a movable diatonic octave, not one that a lot of people think about. So I'm going to show it to you. It's pretty cool. So, you know, most people, when they think of octaves, they're thinking of, you know, those that are played on the 6th and based off of the 6th and 5th string. And so this one's based off of the 3rd and 1st string, and it's really, it's an octave, right? So an octave meaning the same notes, but in this case, a different octave. It has a different, in this case here, that 0, that first note, which is a G, is 1 octave lower than the 3, which is also a G. what's happening physics-wise is that note is vibrating exactly twice as fast as the lower note. And together it sounds like that. Okay. Now this is a good one to play. You could use finger picking for this, or you could use muting. So a lot of my students will say, well, how do I do this? And I say, would you like me to tell you, or would you like the better route of figuring it out yourself? And I really ask that because I mean, I can tell them, but my whole thing is I'm trying to make my students independent of a teacher. I'm trying to make them as independent as possible, because that's what you do when you love somebody, is you make them independent. You make them to where they can go it alone, right? Not to make them dependent on you, or they need lessons from you for the rest of your life, right? Now, here you go. In this case here, I like to mute this. And so I'll tell them, if the student's like, really, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, cool, let me show you what to do here, a couple different ways. So you can do this finger picking wise, where I'm using my thumb and say my ring finger to play these notes, right? On the third, my thumb is playing the third string, that 0, and my ring finger is playing that 3. So I could do that. Right? And I play it going, so that's the major scale, that's the G major scale going up in octaves on the 3rd and 1st string. I could also mute those notes, okay? Whoops. And so on and so forth. Now, someone might ask, well, which one's better? Again, there's not one that's better, but which one do you want to get good at? If you're into fingerstyle, then do it fingerstyle. If you want to get good at muting, whatever it is that you practice is what you're going to get good at. Okay, so people say, well, which one should I do? Well, which one do you want to do? Which one do you want to get good at? That's the answer to your question. Okay, that's movable diatonic octaves, but again, polyphony is the subject of Saturday, and playing 2 and 3 notes at a time. Okay, now let's get into the finger picking module. This is Sunday. And it's good because we're going to look at our first exercise here, okay? And actually, I'm going to take you to week 5 here. Even though, this is all available to you today up to week 1. You get to try that out, right? If you dig it, come on in, join us. We'd love to have you. But I'm going to take you to week 5 just because it's the first one that I teach all my students. So it's going to be actually slightly easier than the very first one there, but just slightly, just more organization-wise. Okay, so here's the deal. So, Mike, we can have that main shot again. Yeah. So when we're playing fingerstyle, when we're finger picking a guitar, we're using our fingers as picks. Makes sense, finger picking, right? Unless we're doing hybrid picking, which is when we're using our pick as well. But for this, we're doing strict finger picking, and it goes like this. The thumb takes care, for the most part, 95% of the time, the thumb takes care of strings 6, 5, and 4, and strings 3, 2, 1 are taken care of by strings 1, 2, 3. So if we take our hand and we lay it on the guitar, this is called the resting position, where you just put your hands on the strings like this. But if we do this and we kind of pull our hand in a little bit, we rest our thumb on that 6th string, and we rest our ring finger on that 1st string, and then we let the other 2 fingers line up like that. 2nd finger, or I should say middle finger, 2nd string, 1st finger, 3rd string, and we just do that, lay it like that. Our thumb is resting on the 6th string. That's called resting position. This is a good thing for you to get used to, because it's literally the quintessential cornerstone of all fingerstyle. And for beginners, it makes sense. Once you can feel what that feels like. Once you do that, it's not something you have to do all the time. You'll just gravitate to it. It'll be your baseline. But for a beginner, if you're just starting off playing fingerstyle, do this with me. It's going to make all the sense in the world, okay? Now, when we're playing this first exercise, you can see, right, it's going in this linear fashion, so we're not playing these notes all at once. We're playing them in a linear fashion. So we're going to pluck that first note with our thumb, and then 3, 2, 1 fingers on strings, or fingers 1, 2, 3 on fingers 3, 2, 1. Pima. I won't go into the detail of this, but essentially, this is P-I-M-A. P-I-M-A. It comes from the Spanish flamenco culture, and those are the Spanish names. Basically, those letters represent Spanish names of those fingers, okay? The way you can remember it is plectrum, so like a guitar pick or a plectrum, as they call it in the UK, index finger, middle finger, and then for this finger, the ring finger, think about anniversary, right? Anniversary ring, so it's easy. Plectrum, P, index, I, middle, M, and annular or anniversary ring, you could think about that as that finger. And you really don't use the pinky much. One, because it's so short, and two, it's rare that we're going to pick anything that has more than 4 notes in it. And if we do, if we have something with 5 or 6 notes, we usually will do a rasgueado, like a strum type of thing, okay? Traditionally in fingerstyle, okay? So in order to play this first one, what we're gonna do, and you can take the guitar and hold it like this, that's fine, whatever's easiest for you, but we're gonna pick 4, or I should say thumb, first, second, third. Thumb, first, second, third, okay? Thumb, first, second, third. Thumb, first, second, third. Thumb, first, second, third. Or strings E, G, B, E. E, G, B, E. Now, some of you are like, well, that's super easy. Yes, because you've done this before, but if you remember the first time you came to play finger picking, it wasn't easy, right? Because you're kind of keep up with more than just one pick. So this would be a great exercise for you to do. The resting position is a great exercise, and this one to just sit there and cycle through that. This is a great one if you end up watching TV, if you're a TV watcher. I am not anymore, but I've watched plenty of TV. I won't judge. I've watched lots of TV, and I used to just sit with my guitar and do certain exercises that I could sit there and engage with my wife and watch TV and what have you, but still do something like this. And you're getting in, getting a little bit of practice time while you're watching TV. Okay, cool. All right, good. So, those are the 7 exercises as represented by the 7 sections inside of 365. Okay, now. We did introduction to fingerstyle, practice makes perfect, so slow it down, break it down. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about before we get into our questions, which we're going to do that in just a minute. Dang, clockwork. Okay, so it's funny. Anytime I say dang because I have a 6-year-old boy, and I say it all the time. Like he'll create this great picture. This morning he came in, he drew this picture, and he showed it to me, and I said, dang, dude, that's so cool. And he'll say, don't say dang, because his mom said, don't say dang, because it's, so whenever I say dang, I always think about him saying that. Don't say dang. Okay, practice makes permanent, as opposed to practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. So slow it down, break it down. So the idea is this. A lot of people say practice makes perfect, right? Well, what happens if your practice, what they mean by practice is habit, right? Creating a habit or doing something over and over again. Well, what happens if you're practicing something that's not benefiting you? What happens if you're practicing smoking, if you believe smoking is bad for you, which most people do at this point? Sorry to break it to you. But let's say you're smoking, you're picking up that cigarette a lot. If you practice that, you're going to get really good at that. You're going to get perfect at that, right? If you're eating the wrong foods, or you're waking up later than you want, or going to bed later than you want, or whatever it is, you're practicing that thing. So you're going to get really good at that. Practice makes permanent, right? So the more times you do it, the more it starts sticking. So it would be good for us to be very conscious about the things that we practice, the things that we do repetitiously, right? Because we're creating a habit, we're creating a rut. And we want that rut to be good. If it's a good habit, then great, we're making that permanent. So it's just something to think about when we're doing this. So when we're doing any of these exercises, we want to slow it down and break it down. And what I mean by that is, if we're playing, let's say, a solo. I do this inside the system where I teach you how to play the solo for Stairway to Heaven. And I break it down into licks, okay, this section, and then the licks, and then not only this lick, but this measure, this section of that particular lick, and now we're looking at this specific note because he bends it a certain way here, you know? And what we're doing again is we're hyper-focusing, we're using mindfulness, we're being in the moment, we're one-minded, all that, and that is super powerful like a laser beam to help you integrate something, okay? If you're doing many things at once, that's old school. People think that that was good. It's not. That was just introduction to the world that we live in now, where there's a lot of things going on. If you hyper-focus on a particular thing, you're going to be better at anything that you hyper-focus on, okay? So when we slow things down or break things down, like I just mentioned to you, like I do in that solo, when we break things down, it allows our mind to really truly comprehend it and to truly understand it. And I don't know about you, but once I truly understand a concept, I don't forget it. It's just built. It's just in me. It becomes part of me now, right? It's like addition. No one needs to convince you that addition does a certain thing and it works every single time the same way. 2 + 2 = 4. Unless we've got it wrong ever since the beginning of time. It works, we know it works, right? So if we slow things down, we break them down, we get that concept, and it becomes part of our cellular nature, and now we can go on and we're not gonna forget things. Have you ever seen a child reading? And have you ever seen like an adult trying to rush them or something? If so, that's really unfortunate because it's not going to make the kid go any faster, right? The kid's going to understand the word when he understands the word. And if he's looking at letters at a time in order to formulate the word, and the words in order to formulate the sentence, which is what we do, we look at whole phrases and we say the sentence. The faster you are a speed reader, the more you can take in. But if we go back words in time on that continuum to where we were as a kid, we were doing the same thing, but we were stringing along letters. And so it took a little while for our brain to start getting that, but once it got it, now we can read phrases at a time and not single letters at a time going like this, like I used to do with my fingers and just focusing on one letter at a time. And then once you do that, you can get faster and faster at it. But what a lot of players do is they focus on that speed and they forget about the detail, and really the accuracy of understanding how a thing works and really getting that accuracy down is the thing that leads to speed. I've never seen in my life ever in the history of thousands of lessons and hundreds of thousands of online students, I've never seen someone get fast before they got accurate. 100% of the time, I've always seen them get accurate, and then the speed was a byproduct of the accuracy. So, and then here's the other thing about accuracy is it's something you can focus on right now, and it's something you can attain right now. Whereas the speed of Yngwie Malmsteen with his accuracy is not attainable in that very now moment, right? It takes time to get to that now moment. It takes many now moments to get to there. So, when you slow things down, when you break things down, it really helps psychologically get your mind wrapped around it. The time will slow down. It's going to feel so much better. It's going to be more rewarding, and you're going to be able to get to your goals much quicker, and it's a lot more fun. It's a more enjoyable process in the meantime, okay? All right, friends, look at that, 12:58. It was 1 hour, right? Just about. So let's get to some questions. Friends, if you are new to watching this, if you're just tuning in right now, look in the description of this YouTube video. There's a link there. If you click on that link, it'll open up to a new page or a new tab, depending on how you have your browser set. And then you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. There, you can enter your email and first name, and I'm going to give you somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 videos. Now, these 50 videos are absolutely crucial for every single beginner player in the history of ever. Other people who they're helpful for are people who are intermediate players or view themselves as advanced players, but they're like, daggone it, I still have a problem with my fretting or my strumming or my picking or whatever, or my chords or whatever, okay? And they don't understand that what happened is somewhere along the line they skipped some fundamental bit that's still causing them a problem today, 50 years later. It happens all the time. Look inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System when you take a test drive. You can take advantage of the stuff we have today, or YourGuitarSage.com/1 to test drive it for 30 days for $1. Either way, you get in there, watch the comments. You're going to see people are saying this all the time. They're like, man, I've been playing for 35 years. I've been playing for 50 years, and I never knew that. And now that I know that, it's helped my playing massively. So all that stuff, link in the description of the video. You go there. I'm giving you basically 3 courses now. I'm giving you Unstoppable Guitar System Standard, the first week of 365, and I'm giving you a course by the name of Play Chords, Scales, Licks All Over the Neck that I did a seminar for this weekend. We gave away like over $3,000 worth of goodies, a Les Paul guitar and all that stuff. So once you click on that link, you're going to have, you put that information in. I'm going to send you a link that's going to give you access to all that information. You will officially be a UGS member, be able to message with me and all that good stuff. And all of this stuff's going to make so much more sense, especially well, everything that I teach is going to make way more sense once you go through this stuff. Okay, good. All right, excellent. All right, here we go. Let's start looking at this chat now, if you would. All caps with a question mark. That'll help so much, okay? Will the stretching exercise help my weak pinky? It absolutely will, Jeffrey, especially when you get to this exercise, okay? I think it might have been, no, it wasn't the exercise. I think it might be week 3. Week 3 of, let's see, it's 365 exercises, so it's a little bit hard for me to memorize them all. But I think it's in week 3 of Stretch and Reach, which is on Friday. So instead of using 1 and 2, you'll use 3 and 4, right? So it'll sound like this. That sort of thing, okay? Just one downstroke at a time, you're sweeping across, and you're switching that up every time. And what that's doing is that's requiring you to drop your thumb behind the back of the neck. And now, in order for you to have any sort of sustainability with this, you can't be grabbing this thing like a shovel. What's going to automatically happen is you're going to find the quan in how much pressure you should be pressing against these frets, because you're needing to go the distance here. So your body starts realizing that, and you're like, okay, I can't press that hard. 2, I don't need to press that hard. So now your tone's going to sound better. You're not pressing the string so hard that you're, putting the guitar out of pitch. That sort of thing, okay? It will help immensely with that, Jeffrey, okay? Beautiful, good stuff, good question, okay. All right, now let me fix my screen here. All right, so yeah, any questions that you guys have on anything that we've done the last few days would work. Is it good to practice on different guitars? Yes, I think so, very much so. I've been switching my guitars out all week here. Number one, because I want you guys to see the other guitars, because they're so beautiful, and daggone it, they're sitting in a closet. I need to bring them out. I can only play one guitar at a time, unfortunately. But is it good? I think it's good to practice on different guitars because it allows you to not be, to the variables not having to be so perfect all the time in order to do stuff. I'm a big fan of sleep aids like melatonin and CBD and things like that. And so, and because of that, I love it. It helps my sleep. But sometimes I go, well, does it have to be that way? And I got to have a fan going, and I've got to have a soft pillow and a nighty-night blankie and a cup of warm oat milk with honey, or you start getting that way. So, but it makes me sleep really well. So in the same way, playing different guitars, it makes you a little bit soft, kind of like in regards, or if you're playing the same guitar, it makes you not soft, but it makes you kind of reliant on those variables being the same every single time. But you take somebody like Yngwie Malmsteen, who's playing at such a high level, he's playing at such a high speed and everything, that if you threw a Les Paul at him, he probably is going to sound absolutely amazing. But is he going to be playing at 100% like he would on his 1972 Strats? Probably not, because the variables are all the same. All the guitars are set up with the same strings, the same, everything's set up the same, so that it doesn't matter. All the guitars feel the same to him, right? But when you're playing at that sort of pace, right? It's like anybody who's at the top of their game on anything. Yes, you would want to do that then, but you see other players playing all different types of guitars, and they're still great players. But there's a reason you see the better the guitar player is typically, oftentimes, if they're really good at one particular thing, say Stevie Ray, he was really particularly good at blues, he ends up playing one or two guitars like consistently, right? You'll see the same players using those same guitars all the time, okay? Is a capo really necessary when I'm just learning the basics? No, it's not necessary when you're just learning the basics. It's helpful later on if you want to change the pitch to a song and you don't want to play a bunch of bar chords. Unfortunately, inexperienced players will say, they'll say, well, you don't need a capo if you have bar chords. Well, kind of true, but kind of not, because they're not synonymous. One is not used for the other. Why we use a capo is typically to change a key, and you can be using a capo and still have a need to play a bar chord. Conversely, you could play a song in all bar chords and not use a capo. You could do both, but the reason you're using a capo is typically it puts the chords in a more comfortable position so that your fingers are more free to create better music. I don't know about you, but I would rather go see somebody use a capo and play better music than see somebody with an ego who thinks that using a capo is some sort of crutch and the music doesn't sound as good, or their fingers aren't freed up to where they can noodle other notes and stuff. Like, who cares that they have strong hands or that they can play bar chords? I can play bar chords, I can play, I can use a capo. That's not one of the things we want to brag on, is you can play bar chords. It's like, yay, that's like, hey, I got a screwdriver. So do I. Good for you. It's good to play bar chords. It's a great goal. It's something to feel good about once you get there. But I guess what I'm saying is, don't get in the mindset that some guitar players have that a capo is bad. The better the guitar player, the more often I see capos, honestly, because they understand the power of them, especially in the studio. But in the beginning, no, you don't necessarily need it, Oh, beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Jordy. I can vouch for that, been trying to learn guitar for 2 years since I joined UGS last week. I've learned loads. Eric is an amazing teacher. Thank you so much. Tone is saying, sorry if I covered this already, but I have the lifetime YGS for veterans, if I said that right. These courses include, yes. Yeah, if you're a UGS Pro member, all the stuff I've talked about here is included, yes. Okay, love this. Patrick said, I remember these freaked me out. He's talking about 365. Freaked me out. A lot of people, I've seen this. People get in there, I'm scared. Let me guide you. I'll walk you through it. Listen to Patrick. I remember these freaked me out when I first saw them. I complained bitterly to Eric, then went and conquered them anyway, because that is life. It's literally everything. Imagine my little infant self or 2-year-old or 3-year-old self, and they said, hey, Eric, one day, they're gonna cut your stomach open and take your appendix out. And this is gonna happen to you, and that's gonna happen to you, and you're gonna go through a divorce, and you're gonna whatever, and you're gonna have all these things where you're, oh dear God, at 3 years old, that'd be terrible to, what would you do, right? But if you just take life step by step, it's manageable, right? And so if you take a course step by step, or you take a step by step, if you're going up a mountain, just one thing at a time, if you do that and you just be in the moment and focus on what's just right before you right now, you can do amazing things in the long term. I said it yesterday. Tony Robbins says that humans overestimate what they can do in a few days and underestimate what they can do in a few years, or something along those lines. I might be slaughtering that, but that's my motto. So you start stacking days of this sort of thing, you just become really, really good, and you're like, you forget how that happened. It's like if you have a diet change or a lifestyle change, you're like, I'm just not going to eat cake anymore at night. If you just do that one thing, you're going to lose weight, you're going to start getting healthier, and you just did one thing. But that accumulative effect of not eating the cake every night is going to help, okay? What's the best hybrid guitar of acoustic and electric? Hollow body? I'm not sure what you mean by a hybrid guitar of acoustic and electric. There's just different kinds, right? There's electric acoustics, and there's acoustic electrics, there's hollow bodies, that sort of thing. So an acoustic electric would be that's what I would think of as an acoustic guitar that has some electronics in it, so that that sound can be amplified. Whereas a hollow body guitar, or what we might call like a electric acoustic, I think both of those might be referring to acoustic. I don't, who knows what the local street talk is, honestly, of that sort of stuff. But we're talking about hollow body guitars. I mean, that's a hollow body guitar, right? That acoustic guitar. I have guitars that look like this that are hollow, that are chambered. In fact, this one may be chambered. I don't know. But they have like holes inside of them and then covered up so you can't see it. So that'd be considered hollow. And then you have the kinds with the F holes and that sort of thing. That's hollow. Then you have semi-hollow, which has to do with the bracing and stuff. And at the end of the day, there is no best, and it's what sounds best to you, Patrick. So, all those different guitars are different, used for different things, different sounds, that sort of thing, okay? Laura is saying muting. When you were talking earlier about octaves, what did you mean by muting? Was that just for electric guitar? I couldn't see what you were doing. So what I mean by muting, Lori, is not allowing a specific note to sound. We're usually muting it with our left or right hand. So in the case of an octave, if I wanted to play the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and I wanted to play the 5th fret of the 4th string, I could let my first finger mute that 5th string in between. So I would hit the 6th string, it would sound, 5th is muted, 4th is sounding. So if I play the 3 together, I could also use my first finger to mute those other strings. So I get that sound. So I'm muting other notes. I go over that in detail inside of UGS. I also have some videos for that on YouTube if you don't want to have all the videos I give you for free. That's okay. Just search YourGuitarSage muting. If you could go back in time and advise the younger version of yourself of the bad guitar habits or mistakes to avoid, what would they be? Fantastic question. One of the best questions I've had in a long time. Here you go. Here's what it would be. It's all the stuff that I teach you, honestly. I literally have taken all the pitfalls and the stuff that I did wrong, and I reversed them for the Unstoppable Guitar System. The stuff I got right, I kept in there. But literally, UGS is like taking the quicker way of the way that I learned to play guitar and adding a bunch of good, healthy steroids to it. Okay, so are there healthy steroids? I don't know. I've never taken steroids. I know I look like it, but I've never taken them. So that's a great example. So for me, it honestly would have a lot to do with focus. It would have to do with the why do I want to play guitar, and that changed throughout the years for me. But had I really super hyper focused on it, which I did to some degree, but even maybe more so, it would have helped in all those different seasons to be the best version of me, of that kind of guitar player that I wanted to be. So it'd be lot more hyper focus. I probably would have learned the Nashville number system early on and really understood how to use the capo and how how I can basically take any key and put it into several different feels. That would have been some of the things that I would have done. I probably would have practiced less exercises, even though exercises are great. For me, I practiced almost all, I was practicing exercises all the time. I definitely learned songs as well, but I probably would have been more song-centric, because to me, at the end of the day, no one cares if your fingers can move fast if you're not saying anything with it, right? For the same reason no one really cares about $5 words or you being very lofty in your speech if you're not actually speaking from the heart and saying good things. Or saying things that move people, right? So those are the things that I would say to focus on. Nashville number system, hyper-focusing on what is the answer to your why is it that you want to play guitar. At one point in my life, I was a singer-songwriter. Another point, in a myriad of bands that I've been in, if I was in a blues band, to focus on the blues would have been great. And then to be in the worship band, to be focusing on that worship stuff. To be in this heavy metal band, I would have been focusing on that heavy metal stuff. And I did do that stuff, but could have even done that even more, okay? That's a great question. A little off subject, but what are string trees for on Strat style guitars? Okay, yeah. So on Strat style guitars, you have things called the string tree. And not so much on the Strat, because the break angle on a, I should say, on a Gibson, the Strat, the break angle, which is right here, is much tighter on, or much steeper on a Gibson than it is a Strat. A Strat will go up like this, and it'll be just slightly back. In some cases, like a Tele, it's pretty straight, and they're doing it with string trees. So, but essentially, you want there to be an angle, a break angle away from the nut for several reasons. Number one, if it just went straight to the tuning peg, there's a chance of that string slipping out of the nut, especially if the nut's not cut correctly, and or you're bending strings. I've had guitars that did that, where you'd bend a string and the string would pop out of the nut, right? Because it didn't have a string tree or didn't have that break angle. So that's one thing that it's used for. It's also used to set the string correctly to hit the tuning peg, right? So that it winds down correctly. It also helps with a sustain, and but mainly, from my understanding, it is to have that break angle in the right way, so that it has the right amount of pressure at the nut. Yeah, for sustainability as well. If I didn't say that, okay. If you do the Unstoppable course first, which thank you so much, Steve. You mean standard, which is the 30-something lessons I give you for free, clicking on that link in the description of the video. I'm giving you 365 week first there also. Yes, you will understand it more. Beautiful. Yeah, and I always suggest that to folks. If you are new to guitar, don't jump into 365. You could, but I'd really rather you understand some techniques and understand the reasons as to why we hold our hands a certain way, et cetera, before just jumping into that, okay? That's what I highly suggest. Okay, good. These are great questions. You guys are crushing it with the questions today. Beautiful. Eric, do you tune to perfect concert pitch? Text Bill, if you tune to 440, that's what we call concert pitch nowadays. But concert pitch has changed over the years, and that's just like some society of people going, I think it should be 435. No, I think A should resonate at 440. Oh, let's change it, or whatever, 442 or whatever. So it's like, yes, I do. And the reason that I do that is most of the things that I'm playing to, whether it being albums from other people or my own material or what have you, was also tuned at that time. So in order for me to be in pitch, to be in the key, I need to tune to concert pitch. That's a great question, Tex. Let me know why you asked that question, because I think there's probably more there that you're not saying. So let me know what you mean by if there's a reason specifically. At what point in my journey should I start bar chords? After I have open chords mastered or before? Definitely after you have open chords mastered, because it's, if we're going to go to school, it's best to go to first grade before you go to second grade. Before you go to first grade, it's best to go to kindergarten, because the things that they cover there are going to help support you in the next year. And the same thing here. The bar chords, there's more mind power needed. There's more technique needed in your hand. There's more pressure needed in your hand, just the whole 9 yards. And they're going to frustrate you if you start off with bar chords, as opposed to... and there's no glory in it. So like anybody who's like, I started off with bar chords, what did it do? Like we would ever be able to tell. Good for you, for the one guy that did that. Like, don't be that guy. Make things sustainable for yourself. We're here to make music. We're not here to see how far. Like I loved it in the 80s. People would take these pictures and they'd like cross fingers over like that. They'd be like, and that their guitar picture, their avatar would be like this, with a stern look, and the fingers crossing, and they're doing this like thing like that, and you're like, whoa, that's a meme, right? Sure, man. We're gonna make a meme out of that, Mike. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's like that's what happens when people let ego get in the way of music. It's unfortunate. It's so embarrassing when musicians get egoic. There's always another better player. It's unfortunate when I see people do that. But that being said, do your open chords first. Bar chords will follow, and I have videos for that, okay? Steven, thanks so much for the donation, brother. Super kind. Thank you. Okay, yes. Scott, yes, that is called chambering with the guitar. But if we're talking hollow, if we're being strict to the word, hollow means something that doesn't have anything in it. Well, that could be argued that nothing's hollow, or anything with a hole in it is hollow, because it has a hollow area, right? But it is called chambering, yes. But it for sure is hollow, but they do call it chambering, yes. I play because, to me, it's great therapy, and it's time well spent away from everyday BS. Yes, indeed. I'm not sure what this means, Cheryl. You'll have to ask that question if you would. Is there bending, etc., in 60s music? In 60s music, is there bending, etc., in 60s music? There's bending in 60s music, yes. And I'd have to know what you mean by etc. You know? I don't know what you mean. If you can let me know more detail, I can answer that question for you, okay? Any questions that you guys have on theory, on technique, on any of this stuff that we talked about, or any of the places that you want to go? Man, even if you want to ask something that you think is a dumb question, it's probably not a dumb question unless you're just looking for attention or something, which we don't really have people like that in the chat so much, every now and then. But no, really, if you have a question and I can move you to the next level, ask me now, because now this is why I do this. I do this for you, to help you. So let me know, right? Can 365 be repeated every year? Yes, we have folks going through it, I think coming close to their third year. I don't think it's been out for 3 years yet, so, or for 2 solid years yet. Maybe it has. Let me know, is anybody who started off in 365, is anybody in their 3rd year? I think most people are in their 2nd year right now. Finger strength is huge, yeah, huge. Yes, it does. It all goes back to your why. Absolutely. This is why, people try to jump over things. I don't need that. I just want to get to the... No, do that thing. Do that thing that's going to bring you the extra mile. Ask the question. Answer the question. The more accurately you answer the question as to why you want to play guitar, the more ammo you have in order to become a better player, and your mind won't be doing things, you won't be practicing things that you really just don't need to practice, okay? Again, that ego gets involved. People are like, yeah, can you play your jazz modes in 7/11 subdivision time with a swing? No. Can you play an intelligent sounding phrase? I bet you can't. Because anybody who's thinking about music like it's weightlifting has already missed the whole point. It's about expressing your soul. That's why somebody like Jack White can have technique that's all over the place. And not just, his technique is good, but I mean, like when he's playing slide and stuff, it's just all over the place. But yet, there's nobody that plays slide guitar like him, and it has its own sound. It's because he's playing from the heart, right? And it's coming across that way. He's not like trying to be so technical. Not that there's anything wrong with that if it sounds good. If it sounds good, great. That's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing anybody cares about. Don't care if you can play fast. Don't care if you can play bar chords or not bar chords. Use a capo, don't use a capo. If it doesn't sound good, they don't care what exercises you're playing. Can you play a damn country song, right? 3 chords and the truth. Just give me something that sounds good. Okay, can you do an F chord without a bar? I'm a beginner. Yes, you can, Ron. Let me show you this one here, right? If you play a C chord, you know the C chord, right? Watch this. Super easy. Little tweaks. Take your 2nd finger, drop it down 1 string. Boop. Right there, okay? Take your pinky and put it on the 4th string that you just left, right at the 3rd fret there. So now I'm playing the 4 inside strings. This is string 5, 4, 3, and 2. That's an F chord. Now, if I want to play this high E string, I would have to fret it at the first fret. So now I have to set up a little bar, but you said no bar. So you'd have to play the 4 inside strings. If you wanted to add that first finger or the first string, you'd have to do that. You could also play strings 2, 3, and 4 in order to play an F. That's like the baby beginner F, right? That everybody learns. Friend, Ron, check out effing F chord on YouTube, EFFING. Watch that video. It'll help you to play a bar chord. And if you know how to play a bar chord, as I teach you in the effing F chord, it will literally unravel over 100 chords. What? Yes. Say amen. So like literally the ability, the physical ability to play an F chord will give you the physical ability to play at least 100 new chords, you know? So, and I show you that in my bar chords videos, both in the course. I have some bar chords videos on YouTube too. Search your GuitarSage bar chords, you'll find it. Okay, which genre would create a good foundation to progress to rock or country? Blues, for sure. Blues, 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 all day long. Richard, saying, would it be possible for you to play some of your music for us today? I tell you what, Richard, we're not really set up for it because I didn't even plug in my stuff to do any sort of playing over anything today. So we did that on Monday. I might do it tomorrow and Friday because we're doing intermediate and advanced stuff. So I might, if I can interwork some of the Gabriel the Bull songs in there. That's the band that I'm in right now. If I can integrate some of that stuff, I'd like to do that because I want you to hear. We got so many amazing new songs. I want you guys to hear it. Okay. Oh, look at this, Steven. I'm on week 50 of my second time through 365. So Steven probably got it when it just came out, meaning we're coming up on the 3-year mark. So that's awesome, Steven. Look at him, gone through it twice already, and he's coming up on number 3. Beautiful. And so, Stephen, let us know. Are you, each time, are you getting something from it? Is it like reading the Bible? When I was a kid, I would read it one day, and 3 years later, I'd read it again, and I'm like, whoa, it means something totally different now to me. Is it like that? Is it timeless? I'm hoping that it is. That was the point of it, is that you can just increase the speed. But let us know if you're just increasing the speed or exactly what you're doing. That's great. Okay, Erica Ray is saying, if I started out skipping, learning all chords, going straight to tabs, and now I'm just a year into scales, modes, etc., what do I do? Because I feel like because I don't feel like I understand things I feel I should. Okay, yeah, Erica Ray, here's the deal. Anybody that can echo that knows what she's talking about, that's why I give you these videos for free, like literally what I'm giving to you today. So Erica Ray, start in the Unstoppable Guitar System Standard. The very first link in the description of this video will take you to a page. You'll scroll to the bottom, and your email, first name there. We do not give your email away or anything like that. That's totally bogus. I don't want someone doing it to me. I'm not going to do it to you. It's simply so that we can send you the course. And if you go through those first 30 or so lessons, like 31, 32 lessons, something like that, if you do that, you are going to have all the foundational core stuff that you could run with for the rest of your life. I've had over 500,000 people go through that program, and it's absolutely crushed their understanding of understanding the guitar, okay? The understanding of the neck and everything. So to do it, okay? And it's there for you for free. Oh, thank you, Brent. Give them 100%. I buy them a cup of coffee or 5 of coffee, feed the Sagettes. Oh, thank you so much, Brent. Super kind, friend. Okay, been doing 365 since September of 2019. Good. He should be an actor, Eric. Guitar Hero the Ninja. Join the Avengers. All right. Martin is saying, hi there, I've been getting better at keeping my thumb behind the neck with open chords. Does it matter if you say, play a D major and bring your thumb over? does it matter if you, well, no, I teach that purposefully, Martin. So for instance, if I'm playing that D, I bring my thumb over to mute that note, right? So now I have an A as my bass instead of a D, but at least I don't have the F sharp, which is a little bit harsher of a sound. So I could bring my thumb over and mute both the 6th and 5th strings. And no, that is advisable, and I had some video actually inside of UGS, the beginner section there. Eric, big fan of The Cure. Me too, man. I love The Cure. Do you know the guitar riffs of the song A Forest or Primary? I don't, friend. Not off the top of my head. I'd have to listen to them and do them, but I don't. Michelle's saying, I have a hard time with strumming. What can I do to get the technique down? Michelle Harris. So, Michelle, so listen to me, friends. You hear me say it all the time, but this is proof. Michelle, who I'm just seeing for the first time, Michelle, welcome to the family. So good to see you. Doesn't know about the Unstoppable Guitar System standard. So, Michelle, that link that's in the description of the video will give you access to UGS standard. And I have a strumming video in there with a PDF and 5 levels of exercises. So it goes from easy to a little bit harder, to a little bit harder, all the way up to advanced, to where you're doing the rhythm, the strumming rhythms that everybody, that you hear all the time. I give that all to you for free. Take advantage of it. Click the link in the description of the video. That's what you can do, okay? And I have a few other videos in there too that will guide you. But if you watch that one, you gotta listen to the bits and pieces and apply them as I show you what to do, right? But there's a couple other videos in there too that are like, okay, if you're still having problems with strumming, here's what to do. Because after teaching several thousand lessons in my life, after doing that, I realized what it was that people were struggling with, and I created videos for that specifically, okay? Yeah, I love that, Drew. Love that you're loving this. I love that, Scott. I only use pickups that are hand wound by local artisans. You know, I might use that. I'll walk into some like artisan. There's a place called Artisan Guitars here in Nashville, and they have great acoustic guitars, but they're kind of D's, like as far as the people, like they're just like, they're kind of like not real cool. They're not nice. Every time I've gone in there, and so, which is unfortunate. But I'd love to go into like a hoity-toity, or where they act hoity-toity like that, and be like, and they hand me a guitar, and I'm like, are these hand wound by local artisans? Because if not, I'm not playing it. That would be a fun thing to do. All right, so whoa, I just skipped way down here. Hold on, just 1 second here. Okay. Lost my place. I don't like that YouTube does that. It just jerks down to the bottom of the chat. Got to find a way to undo that. Okay. Is a metronome a useful tool to improve timing? I've never tried using one while strumming, and sometimes I feel like my timing is off. Ron, absolutely. Timing, like playing guitar, like singing, like songwriting, like painting, like soccer, like anything, like using a metronome, only is learned through repetition. No one born being good at any of this stuff. If you believe that, you got to turn this off and go to watch somebody else, because I can't help you. Okay, they're gone. Everything is learned through repetition, okay? And so using a metronome is the way to get your internal clock set, okay? And I'm not sure what the phenomenon is, but it's pretty cool. When you start using a metronome, your timing gets better. Because at first, you're like feeling like it's slowing down, and now it's speeding up and whatever. And that's because you were speeding up or slowing down. You were doing the opposite of what you think it's doing. If you think it's slowing down, you were speeding up at that section. If you think it was speeding up, you were slowing down in that section, and that metronome's being true. Most of them are quarts, so they ain't gonna be slipping in any sort of time that that's gonna be discernible. So, so absolutely, working with a metronome creates, you know what it's like? It's like having a buddy at the gym who says, "Come on, we're doing this," you know, or "Come on, you're not at the gym, I'm here." It makes you have to stick to a particular thing, and it's on this little micro level, but over time and after repetition, it really starts getting your internal clock set to where you are a better player, okay? Yeah, absolutely, it's super helpful. Best strumming PDF, Lori, thank you so much. Yay, so glad that she's got it and she's looking at it and it's helping. Good. I've been playing the F chord with the bar on the first fret, E and B. Is that wrong? No, that's totally fine. So Sonia's playing the F chord like this, right? You're just playing, this is known as an F/C because there's no F in the bass. This is the F. Right? That's the F that you would play if you were playing a full bar chord. It's got that note in there. But if we don't play with that note in the bass, we're playing an inversion. An F chord has a C in the chord already, okay? F, A, C. And so if we play it with the F in the bass, it's just an F chord, okay? If we play it with a C in the bass, that's a C, it's gonna sound like this. F chord with a C in the bass, F chord with an F in the bass, F chord with a C in the bass, F chord with a F in the bass. It's funny, when I just started teaching, and I've seen other people do it too, other teachers online, but when you're teaching stuff that you've done a million times, or to you, to me, it's simple because I've done it so many times. It's funny because when you slow real simple stuff down, sometimes you can flub it because you're like, it's so simple that it just like, you're just going too slow. But that's my damn job, okay? So you shush your mouth, Sage. You shut up and you teach. I've been playing the F chord. Okay, so we've been over that one, right? Yeah, sure. Was there something else I was going to add to that? Oh, Michelle saying I got the pronunciation right. Good, yes. Michelle. Michelle, my belle. It's my favorite Beatles song. What is the best way to memorize the fretboard quickly? Eddie, yeah. So it's a series, it's a few different things. But first off, you want to know the names of the notes on the fretboard, then you know the musical alphabet, and then you know your springboards. That's the easiest way to memorize the fretboard. Because really, you're not memorizing the fretboard any more than you are memorizing the numbers 1 through a million. I use this example all the time. You could count 1 through a million, although no one's ever done it. No one here has ever counted to a million. If you have, you wouldn't admit it, because what were you doing during that time? You could have been doing something else, right? No one's counted to a million, but we know we can do it because we know the system of how the decimals work and what have you. In the same way, what I do is I show you that the 6 strings are E, A, D, G, B, E, right? From the 6th string on down, E, A, D, G, B, E. So we know that. Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie. And we know that the musical alphabet goes from A to G. I'm going over this very fast because it's in the free course I'm giving you. Okay, so who asked this? So Eddie, take advantage of the free course I'm giving you. I have a PDF that's going to show it to you and a video that's going to show you in more detail, and I'm going to take more time with you and all the rest. But that's a link in the description of the video. So we know the musical alphabet goes from A to G. We know that every note has a sharp, which means you could raise it. It's got like a variation of it. It has a sharp. Every note has a sharp except for letters B and E. So if we know that the alphabet, with those two rules, we know that the alphabet would go A sharp, B doesn't have a sharp, so straight to C, C sharp, D sharp, E doesn't have a sharp, so it goes straight to F sharp, G sharp, and then back to A again. So that's our spectrum, that's our musical alphabet, if you will. And so if we know that this is the A string, then we could just go A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. And we know the 12th fret is back to the beginning, E, A, D, G, B, E. That's what I call a springboard. I'm not gonna go over springboards right now because I did that this weekend. And when you go to that link in the description of the video, I'm giving you a course that goes into all the detail of springboards, okay? All for free, folks. Have I mentioned that it's all for free? So for those of you that think I'm making a buck on that, I'm not. I do have stuff you can buy, because here's the deal. I love food. It's true. And Mike gets real pissy if I don't pay him. And my family gets really mad if I don't bring home the food. So of course I have things that I sell, but I've got tons of free stuff for you. So for those that don't want to buy anything ever, I've got you taken care of. For those that really want to go down the rabbit hole and learn everything, I got you covered too, okay? Okay, so when doing a pull-off, how do you pluck the strings without killing the sound of the adjacent strings? So Kilroy, that is a matter of practice. And again, just like eating a piece of chocolate, I can tell you about a piece of chocolate, or you could eat a piece of chocolate and you can immediately know the way it tastes. I could tell you about the chocolate for 100 years. With all the detail in the world, you're never going to taste the chocolate and experience the chocolate. So in the same way, I can tell you stuff about doing a pull-off, but ultimately, you're gonna learn way more by attempting what it is that I'm telling you and experiencing it for yourself. But a couple little tricks that you can do is this. When you're pulling off, mute. If this first finger is playing the second string, I'm playing on my fingertip, but I'm also muting the third and first strings with the way that I'm playing this string. I'm not playing directly on my fingertip, playing kind of on the side, a little bit on my pad, just so I can mute the third and first string. So once you could do that, when you do a pull off, even if you hit the other string, it's not gonna make a noise. Right? Makes sense? Same thing with hammer-ons. So now that I told you that, will you be able to just run off and do this? No, but you're going to be closer. It really takes that experience of you being in it and doing it. This is why I tell everybody's guitar journey is you're kind of on your own. What I can do is I can coach you, I can be by you. It's just like if you were running a race. You got to run the race on your own, but I could be next to you saying, buddy, breathe, slow your pace down a little bit. You know what I mean? You need a little bit of water, whatever. And those are the things that'll get you through it, right? Okay. Oh, I love that. My lunch break with my fellow law enforcement friends lasted a little longer than expected, but I am here to wrap up now, and I will play catch up. Love that, Thomas. Okay. The first time I started 365, I was a new beginner. The second time, improved technique and speed. Looking forward to doing it again because I constantly get better in small increments. I love it, right? Do you have any tips on developing accuracy when moving up the fretboard and your hand needs to move? Pete, yes. So what I would say to do is to hyper-focus on specifically the routine or the specific lick that you're trying to do. If you're talking about just that in general, then do that just in general. So if you're picking in the open position and you want to get good at moving up the neck, do something like that sort of thing, where you're just moving, but you're doing it at a speed that doesn't freak you out, you're pushing against your edge. What can you do? What can't you do? Find the in-between stage there, what we call the edge, and push up against it. This is everything in life. If you want to grow, which is the things that make you happy, that's what you got to do. So, we're doing that. But what I would say is that's probably not what you want. There's probably a specific thing that you're trying to do where you're in the middle of a solo and you're moving up. I would say practice that specifically, but practice it at a speed that's completely doable for you and it feels good. Then what you want to do is you want to make it slightly uncomfortable. You want to push into the area that you're wanting to go, but that you're not at quite yet. The magic, friends, is finding what that quan is. If it's too easy, it becomes too boring and you start losing interest. If it's too hard, you're gonna bail out because you're like, this is too hard. I need a soft pillow and some oat milk and honey to go to bed type of thing. You know what I mean? Push up against what is sustainable, but that grows you, that makes you stronger, okay? It's loud. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Beautiful. There's a reason you popped up in my YT. Glad you did. God bless you, Eric. I've tried other YouTubers, but it just didn't work. Cheers from the UK. Beautiful, Sonia. Thank you. I really, truly appreciate that. It means a lot. That's one of the things I miss about one-on-one lessons, as I don't get that same interaction. So you guys saying stuff really, truly does help me. It makes me go, okay, they're getting it, or I move to this person or whatever. It's fuel for my day. So thank you so much. Okay. Do you have a video on the B chord? Having a hard time with it. So Stephen, what you're having a hard time with is bar chords, right? So B chord is no different than the B flat chord or the C chord if we're playing it bar wise, right? So really you're having an issue with bar chords. And yes, of course I have plenty of videos on bar chords inside the system. I have some videos on YouTube. Search YourGuitarSage bar chords. But specifically I teach a chord called the effing F chord, and that will help you a ton. But you know, here's the technique that you want to use, Stephen, to learning the B chord. Is you want to form it, but you just want to play one note at a time. So for instance, you want to roll your fingers should you need to. And then you might do 2 notes at a time. And then 3 notes at a time. And then 4 notes at a time. That sort of thing. And what that's doing is having you hyper-focus, there we are with that word again, it's having you hyper-focus on specific parts of that chord. Because having a hard time with it doesn't give us detail, does it? It doesn't. So is it buzzing? Is it muting? Which string is muting? Why is that string muting? Are you hitting it with another finger? Or are you not pressing down hard enough? The devil's in the details. So this is why we break this down and we hyper-focus on 1 note at a time, 2 notes at a time. Then we can get to 3 notes at a time. But why look at 3 notes if we can't get 2 notes down? Why look at 2 if we can't get 1? So start at 1, build yourself up using the method that I teach in the effing F chord that's on YouTube, E-F-F-I-N-G, okay? Good. My 12th fret, high E, won't play. Is this a truss rod issue? It might be a truss rod issue. It might be that the tilt of the neck is not what it should be. Remember, that's not what the truss rod does. What the truss rod does is it bends, it does this to the neck. So it doesn't tilt the neck like this. It basically creates an arch in it or not, makes it straight or the other. So it could be that. It could be that your neck is tilted. It could be that your nut is too low or your bridge is too high. It could be lots of things. So it starts getting into this, like, could be several things. Could be one of those things. Could be all of those things. And so this is where it gets a little sticky. For me in my time and what I'm able to do, this is why I call on a good guitar luthier. For the same reason that I'm not going to change my oil in my car on Friday. I'm going to take it into the people that do that because I don't even know where that twisty thing is to let the oil out. I don't know where it's at. So I'd rather a pro do it than me. But if you like tinkering, if you're good with mechanics engineering and mechanics and stuff like that, then you may want to do that sort of thing. Otherwise, man, to me, it's just worth it, $50 and bring it to a tech or something like that. But if you don't have the money, obviously, if you have more time to do that, then I'm sure there's tons of great videos on YouTube. But however, I do go over that inside the Unstoppable Guitar System, but it's not me. It's my guitar tech. I'm with my guitar tech, and I'm asking questions. He's showing us in real time there, not in real time, but obviously on video, how to do all those things, okay? How to set a guitar up. So you can check that out. For $1 today, you can do that, Percival. You can get in the whole thing, all 1,000 videos and 600 jam tracks and visual jam tracks and access to me and the 3 lives per month that aren't hundreds of people but are just dozens of people where we get real intimate conversations and really able to dig in the dirt. All that's available to you for $1. YourGuitarSage.com/1 if you need to try that out, if you want to try that out, okay? But if you do that, promise me, if you want to get in, please promise me that you don't miss the specials that we have that are going on till Sunday, because inevitably I got people emailing me on Monday morning going, can you open the sale back up? And I'm like, I can't. There's a lot of work to doing all that stuff, and I can't do that. So that's why we tell people enough times, it's closing on Sunday, okay? So if you want to save $222 off of the Unstoppable Guitar System today, click the link in the description of this video. It'll take you to that place where you can get all the free videos, and you'll see all of our specials. And oh yeah, 365 plan is $30 off today. So it's $49 instead of $79. Cool? Cool. Okay, so he's good with the B, so he's good with the, I'm okay with the F and F chord, but notes are muted on the B chord. Okay, Stephen. So, but take that same methodology and then go to your B chord, because I don't know, because again, but the notes are muted. How many notes are muted? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Why? On what strings? What are you doing with your fingers? Like the devil's in the details. So that's why instead of, teach a man, right? Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. That's why I take the second philosophy, because I want to teach you, and with that effing F chord video, that's what you would do with the B chord. You would find out specifically what the target is and hyper focus to fix it, okay? That's what you want to do. Okay, 4 notes at a time is where it starts to break down. High E is almost always muted. Okay, great. Thanks for the details, Stephen. I can help you more. So it's okay. Here's the deal. When I talk about that B chord, see, we have these misperceptions or these misconceptions that we wonder where they came from. There's lots of myths around guitar. Remember, a chord is 3 or more notes played at the same time. And if those 3 notes are represented, it doesn't matter if you're playing them twice in a 6-note chord or you're playing them one time in a triad. Doesn't matter except for the sound of the chord. Maybe what you want, it may not be. Maybe you want to have that high E in there. But if you're just playing it for tradition's sake, I wouldn't do that. So for instance, I can play that note in there, but most of the time, especially if I'm playing rock music, I'm not going to play that high E string. Number one, I typically don't play that high E string when I'm playing rock and roll, because to me it doesn't sound as good as taking that note out. So a lot of times I'm taking out that high E when I'm playing a B chord. I wouldn't play. Sounds harsh to me. That sounds better. So less is more in this case, in my opinion. So Stephen, let yourself off the hook. You don't have to play that high E string unless you want to. And if you do, then you got to get more accustomed to hyper extending that finger, hyper extending it right to where you have that knuckle curling backwards, white knuckling it type of thing. I talk about that in, where do I talk about? I think I talk about in the bar chords video, okay? I'm loving hyperfocus. Sonia, good. I'm so glad you get it. I'm glad you get that concept, because I've missed that concept and other concepts like that before, because you go right over it. It just doesn't hit you right at the right time, right? But hyperfocus has absolutely changed my life in everything that I've ever done. It just is absolutely super duper powerful. Deep Work, the book Deep Work is a great book for understanding that concept. It's super powerful, especially for guitar. It's fantastic. Okay, Do you always count when you play? When playing to a metronome, I seem to do way better when I don't count. I just keep tapping my foot in time with it. Okay, 2 lessons here. So no, I don't always count when using a metronome. Most of the time I'm not counting. I'm just listening to the metronome and feeling it, right? So again, so there's lesson 1. Lesson 2 is do what works best for you. And it's another time for me to reiterate that. Some people are going to count, some people aren't going to count, some people are going to subdivide the beat. So if it's tick, 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 in their head they may be, they're doing subdivisions of that beat and what have you inside their head, because that will help them be more accurate. Especially drummers like to do this, okay? So do what works best for you. Try all these different things out, but do what works best for you. How do you find that out? You got to experiment. I'm experimenting all the time. I experiment with my diet. I experiment with physical activity. I experiment with guitar, all. You got to know what works, what doesn't. Experiment, you know? Oh, thank you, Carol Case. Thank you for letting Steve know about this. I just saw YouTube, Eric did about 4 years ago, that really makes the B chord easier. It is how to hack your bar chords. Good. I remember the name of that video. I just don't remember specifically what I talked about in that. Good. Good. Thank you so much. See you, Willie. Have a good time at that soccer game. 120 miles away. That's a long way. I know. Isn't that funny? Like when I was a kid, you know, when I was a kid, you're lucky if your parents like showed up at a game. And I had great parents, but like we were lucky if they showed up at a game, right? You hear Willie's driving 120 miles. Now the kids are like getting on buses and going to different states and stuff. It's wild. Good thing hyperfocus is not the key word on the drinking game. Today, man, we've said it a lot, right? Yes. I do sell my books on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, you just type in Eric Andreas, you're going to see them. They're going to show up. Oh, thanks, Mike. Look at you. Friggin' ninja-like. How do you play a song by ear without having to memorize the chords? I learned songs through tutorials. Ron, you're never going to learn a song and have it memorized without memorizing. You can't play a song by ear without memorizing, okay? Well, I guess what I'm saying by that is there's got to be some amount of memory, right? You're using your memory all the time, at least to remember the forms of the chords. Now, where they're being played, like, do you just play it by ear without memorizing? No, you got to. Now, you're memorizing the chords. I mean, essentially, you could do something which Nashville players do. I do it. There's players who do it as well and do it way better than me. There's players who don't do it as well as me. My wife's really good at this, but they can, you can say, okay, this is the key of the song, and then when the chords change, you can hear that chord as it changes because you're thinking about the number system. And what I mean by that is as it relates to the tonal center. So if it's a 4 chord or a 5 chord, we'd think of it as a 4 chord or a 5 chord. Instead of in the key of G, thinking it as a C chord and a D chord. It doesn't really mean much because what that chord represents, what its job is different in the key of G than it is in the key of C. So when we learn the relationship of those notes and those chords, it means something way more than just knowing the name of that chord as a C or a D. Okay, so did I answer that? Yeah, I think I answered that correctly. Oh, thank you. Best thing about UGS Pro Lifetime is that it's always there. If you fall off the wagon for a while, it will be right there with you. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Okay, Eric. Eric, I listened to... Okay, we got about 2 more minutes. Here we go. Eric, I listened to every word and use a really light white pick. I lightly brush the strings, but I sound awful to the point it no longer sounds like music. What else to do? What else can I do? John, I would need to know more detail because awful could mean anything. It could be your opinion. It could be the sound of your guitar. Your guitar could be out of tune. You could be having pick noise because you're hitting too lightly. I don't know what that means. I'd need to have more detail, John, from you to know specifically. And since we're closing up shop here right now, John, would you join me tomorrow? Join me tomorrow and tell me and let me know specifically. Let's get down to some specifics and I'll help you through it. I just can't without knowing more detail, you know. How do you use modes? Use modes the same way that you would use scales. It's just that they sound a little differently. So usually that mode will match the specific chord. That said, a lot of people, let me ask you, do you love jazz? If you don't love jazz, I wouldn't be concerned with modes, because modes are used more often than jazz. Yes, there's a couple that can be used in rock music, but to think about it as modes and to get in that mindset of, do you use modes? Do you use modes? How do you use modes? If you get into that mindset, you're gonna not probably use the modes in the way that is gonna be helpful to you. I understand what you're asking. I'm not making fun of the way you said that by that voice. Sorry, I use that voice all the time. But you use modes like you would scales, but unless you love jazz, don't make the mistake that a lot of inexperienced guitar players do, and they're like, I gotta learn modes. They're not gonna do anything for you. They're not gonna do much for you. I know my modes, I learned them at an early age. I learned them in all the different keys. I know how to play them, I know how to apply them, and I don't ever use them. I hardly ever use modes. It's not to say you can't. If you're playing calls 40, if you like that sound, I don't love that sound. I like a very tonal type of sound. I like when people go out of the scale a little bit, but modally, like jazz-wise, just not a big fan. And it's just flavors. So I like chocolate or vanilla. It doesn't matter. It's just an opinion, really, you know. All right, I think we got to all the questions. I think we did. Friends, thank you so much. This was awesome. This was day 3 of the 5-day guitar boot camp. Tomorrow will be day 4. Let me tell you what it is that we're going to be talking about. And guys, anybody who's listening to my voice or watching this pre-recorded or anything, if you have not taken advantage of the course, you need to. You know where to go. Click the link in the description of the video, then scroll down to the bottom, enter your email and password. It's going to give you access to all these courses that I'm giving you. A ton of courses, like nearly 50 videos for free with PDFs. Bro, go now. Stop waiting. Okay, so here is day 4, highlights. Introduction to the intermediate section of the Unstoppable Guitar System. I'm going to show you what's in there, show you how to navigate that a bit. It's also probably going to prompt some questions for you. That's why I'm also going to bring you through that, is because you're going to go, oh, intermediate and intermediate plus is what we need to do. We need to do both those sections because I want to show you what's in there. And by us just going through some of those things, it's going to spark your mind to go, hey, oh, that reminds me, what about this or what about that? So join me for that. It's going to be super cool. And then we're going to talk about developing a practice schedule, and I'm going to be using you as real world examples, okay? So anybody who asks me, if we got the time, we're going to be focusing on creating a practice routine for you. So one guy may be blues, another guy may be blues, but depending on how much time and that sort of thing and what specifically I want to do in blues, I'm going to guide you there. It's going to be different than the guy who's playing campfire guitar, and different than the guy who wants to play studio guitar, and different than the girl who wants to play jazz guitar. Cool? All right, so developing a practice schedule with real world examples, that's you. And we'll be starting our learning our first song. So if you're new to guitar, if you're a newbie, beginner, that would be very helpful. Or if you struggle with playing a song, we're going to break it down to some different things you can think about, break it down, slow it down so that you understand the concept psychologically so you can bring it into anything that you're doing. Cool? That's a lot of words in 2 hours. All right, friends, this was awesome today. You guys did great, great questions. Thank you so much for being here. For everybody that donated, thank you so much. Thank you for Mike, for, as always, for being a ninja and putting up the links and helping with all. So if you need any links, you know what to do. Description of the video, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys tomorrow, noon Central Time. See ya.